Hello cruel world. In this video I'm going to do a brief psychoanalysis of the character the Riddler from the new film The Batman. So I'm going to answer questions like, is he a typical serial killer, and what specific characteristic traits of serial killers does he have and doesn't he have? I'm going to give you a semi-spoiler alert, so I'm not going to spoil like big plot lines in this video, but I'm going to mention one or two things only because they're relevant to my psychoanalysis. But I promise you it's not going to ruin the film for you, I think, in my opinion. But if you're very sensitive, then probably don't watch this if you want to watch the film. Okay, so let's get started. So one of the things that I think is quite interesting about the Riddler is his motivation for killing all these people. He certainly has a very specific agenda, and I won't go into it too much, but you can tell from the trailer that it's all about no more lies. So he's targeting people that he believes are corrupt or have lied about one specific situation. So this is very unusual for a serial killer. Usually serial killers have this bloodlust, and sometimes it's a sexual lust, and they get sexual satisfaction, and it builds and it builds and it builds up inside of them. And then they have to discharge it in this murderous rage. But that doesn't seem to be what's happening with the Riddler. His actions seem very cold, very calculated, and very, very planned. Which brings me on to the next point. Is he an organised serial killer or a disorganised serial killer? This is quite a rough differentiation between the two types. So I've done an entire video on that. Go check it out on the links below if you want to know all the details. But very briefly, a disorganised serial killer attacks in a frenzy. They do it impulsively. They pick their victim at random. They kind of leave the crime scene quickly and kind of scarper off. They're not very good at hiding the evidence, and therefore are good at being caught. An organised killer is the opposite of that. So they meticulously plan out their attacks. They stalk their victims. And more importantly, they're very good at fitting into society. So on the surface, they appear very normal. They might have quite productive lives, might have a family, etc., etc. So the Riddler, in terms of his planning of his killings, is definitely very organised. He goes to extreme lengths to calculate all the variables. I'm afraid I can't really comment on what his actual non-serial killer, normal, everyday civilian character is like, because they barely show that at all in the movie. But if he fits that mould, then he will be all of those things, so he would easily fit in. Another interesting question for me is his level of narcissism. So you could argue that most serial killers, especially organised ones, have a high level of narcissism. They think themselves very important. The Riddler definitely has this to a degree, because he taunts people, he taunts the police, he leaves clues intentionally, he leaves clues for Batman. So that shows that in his mind, he's playing a game. He wants to show off his intelligence because he wants people to struggle to understand, to find him. On the other hand, this is a mini spoiler, he's also willing to sacrifice himself. So he doesn't mind getting caught, which happens towards the end of the film, as long as his agenda is followed and as long as people see the truth from his perspective. So that is not a particularly egotistical or narcissistic way of thinking, because he's willing to make that sacrifice. So what I'm saying is he's got a mixture when it comes to narcissistic personality traits. Another interesting question that I found myself asking myself when I was watching this film and thinking I need to tell my dear viewers about this is he delusional? That is a difficult question to answer. So he certainly has what appear to be some delusional beliefs. So again, mini spoiler, when he has a showdown with Batman in Arkham Asylum, he believes that Batman and him are kind of on the same agenda, on the same mission. And that is definitely delusional. When you think that there's a conspiracy and you think that other people are there to help you, that is classic delusional, kind of grandiose delusions. But here's the thing, when Batman rejected his idea, the Riddler was convinced almost immediately that Batman wasn't fighting his corner, wasn't on the same mission as him. Whereas in a true delusion, by definition, they're really hard to shake. Even if you're presented with evidence that suggests otherwise, a truly delusional person, so somebody who's psychotic, got schizophrenia, for example, it's almost impossible to change their mind. So that didn't happen in the film. So that's an argument to why he wasn't delusional. Okay, so if you're interested in delusions, I've got an entire video series about delusions and specific cases of how they've led to offending, including cases that I've personally assessed, anonymised, because I don't want to get in trouble. All right, I've been banging on for a while. Dear viewers, what do you think? If you've seen the film, what of my characterization of the Riddler from this film? Let me know your thoughts in the 𝐏𝐬𝐿 section below. Very briefly, I'm going to give you a 1 or 2 minute summary of what I thought of the film The Batman. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. I didn't enjoy it anywhere near as much as the Christopher Nolan films. I think that the Christopher Nolan films were dark and gritty, but they didn't take themselves too seriously. And there was some levity. There was, a little bit of banter between some of the characters, etc. The Batman was just a bit too dark and it took itself too seriously. There were some bits at the end which, to me personally, felt a bit cringy. Just it was shoving like messages down your throat. And I also thought it was a bit too long. So I was kind of gripped for the first half, maybe 2/3 of the film. The last hour or so, I found my concentration wavering. Wasn't that snappy or impactful for me. Okay, again, I'd like to know what you think, dear viewers, if you've seen the film, what you think overall. I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. Please let me know what score you would give it. The final thing I want to say is that I implore you to check out more videos on this channel. This is a Psych for Sore Minds. I do videos which are about true crime, but they have a twist of psychiatry. Although, speaking out aloud, I suppose it's not true crime if it's from a film, but you get where I'm coming from. If you like this sort of topic, then you should definitely check out my video on Organise versus disorganised serial killers. I've also done a psychoanalysis of Anna Delvey from the series Inventing Anna on Netflix. I've actually done the psychopath test, so I've used the formal clinical test called the 𝐏𝐬𝐲𝐝 psychopathy checklist to see whether she would fit the mould of a clinical formal diagnosis of psychopathy. If you're interested in serial killers, first of all, what the hell's wrong with you? And secondly, you'll probably enjoy my video on Katherine Knight, who is the first Australian woman to have a whole life tariff in prison because of what she did. What she did was insane, killed lots of people, actually decapitated her own husband and tried to cook his head and feed it to his kids. I kid you not. Right, that's enough for me. Buy my book, In Two Minds, links below. It's about my life working as a forensic psychiatrist. Check out my videos, stay euthymic, and do not forget, I love you.